Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Moderators, you may begin.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Sorry we're a couple minutes late. We had a little technical difficulty on our side. Welcome to the Andre Ward versus Paul Smith conference call. My name is David Itzkowitz. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Rock Nation Sports. Ward versus Smith takes place this weekend, Saturday, June 20th at Oracle Arena in Oakland, California, and will be televised live on BET and streamed live globally on Tidal.com at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. The fight is presented by Rock Nation Sports in association with Matchroom Sport and is sponsored by the Waterfront Hotel, Venue Kings, Shoe Palace, CTMS Travel, Q102.1, 95.7 The Game, and KBLX 102.9. In addition to the main event, we also have an intriguing co-feature pitting two undefeated prospects against each other in Cleveland's Antonio Nieves and Stephan Young of St. Louis in an 8-round featherweight fight. In addition to the great action inside the ring, the event's going to feature several notable Rock Nation touches that will enhance the in-arena experience for fans and those watching on TV and on BET and on Tidal, including Nipsey Hussle taking to the ring for a special performance prior to the main event. The event will be hosted by notable MC Sway Calloway from Oakland and will also feature hitmaster DJ Franzen, who will serve alongside Sway throughout the night. Tickets priced starting at $30 are still available through Ticketmaster. We urge everybody to get their tickets as soon as possible. This is obviously a very exciting time in Oakland with the Warriors poised to capture their first world championship in 40 years. We're really thrilled to be a part of the excitement that the city is feeling right now and proud to be part of what could really, really, really be a special week in the city of Oakland. We have to the participants in the main event on the call today now to say a few words and introduce Paul Smith. I'd like to turn it over to Eddie Hearn, who is the Managing Director of Matchroom Sport. Eddie?
Thank you, David, and thanks, everyone, for tuning into the call today. It's a pleasure to be coming to Oakland. I was there once for the Conf Andre Ward press conference, and thank you to Rock Nation for giving Paul Smith this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be working with you guys for the first time. This is an interesting time for the super middleweight division in Britain, obviously spearheaded for such a long time by Carl Froch, and obviously James DeGale winning the IBF super middleweight championship recently against Andre Durrell, George Groves challenging Badu Jack, and some great young fighters coming through as well. Paul Smith's brother, Callum Smith, is fighting for the WBC silver title next week, and Rocky Fielding, another undefeated fighter as well. Martin Murray as well, just signed with us, moving up to super middle. So it's a really good time, and Britain seems to have the cream of the crop in the division right now in terms of numbers, and Paul Smith is another one you can add to that list, coming off the back of two fantastic performances against Arthur Abraham. The first, many believe he won the fight, very close fight. The second, he put up a great fight and has really established himself at world level. We know Andre Ward, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, absolutely no doubt about that, but let's be honest, if there's ever a time to fight Andre Ward, it's right now. And Paul Smith, who has had a stellar career and really a real resurgence in the last couple of years, has massive confidence through the Arthur Abraham fight. He's a real realist, but he's also an intellectual fighter. He studies the sport. And we've taken this fight 100% to win this fight. We appreciate how tough this fight is, but I think Paul Smith is a very, very live fighter in this fight on Saturday night. Andre Ward, as I said, a magnificent fighter, but right about now, with his inactivity and, of course, the pressure to perform as well, we really like Paul Smith's shot in this fight, and you can guarantee one thing, he'll bring all the action, all the passion, and 100% desire to win on Saturday night. So it's a pleasure to be part of the broadcast, the show, and the fight, and we look forward to coming to Oakland, and I'd like to pass over to Paul Smith for a few words.
Thanks, Eddie.
Paul, you want to say a few words before we turn it over to questions from the media?
Yeah, no problem. It's Eddie's touched on it basically. You know, it's a pleasure to be here. It's good to be asked to fight someone like Andre Ward, and it's good to be, you know, part of an event like this and fighting back in the States, which I've said time and again, you know, I love it over here. I've had the privilege of fighting over here before, and it's great to be coming back again to do it, but on this big stage. It'll be it'll be fantastic. And I've said time and time again, I've got all the respect in the world for Andre Ward, and I thank him for giving me the shot. But I am here to win. I've trained as hard as I can, and I'll give every last thing I've got on Saturday night to try and do that.
Thank you very much. Operator, I think we're ready to turn it over for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, if there are any questions at this time, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from Dan Raphael at ESPN. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hey, Paul, Eddie, how are you guys today? David?
Good. How you doing?
Very good. Dave, I love hearing you say Nipsey Hussle. I got to get it out of the way.
Whenever you want to call me, I can say it for you as much as you want. Nipsey Hussle. There you go.
Hey, Paul, here's my question. Eddie touched on a little bit about that if there was ever going to be a time to maybe get Andre, it would be coming off of what will be about a 19-month layoff. It's been very, very inactive over the last couple of years. Can you talk about what you think that layoff may make him look like? Because he's been spectacular. I mean, he beat Carl easily. He dominated the Super 6 tournament and was really just not even losing rounds against guys. But now it's been almost 2 years. So what are your thoughts about being in the right spot, maybe at the right time to maybe pull the upset?
That's exactly what I'm trying to hope for and what I'm thinking. And the only thing I can say, I can't speak for Andre himself because I don't know him personally. I know of him and I've watched him time and again. And before Saturday night, I was an Andre Ward fan. I'm sure I'll be an Andre Ward fan after it. But inactivity isn't good for any fighter, and any fighter will tell you that. You have to stay active. You have to stay busy, and all the training in the world in the gym it's totally different, and any fighter will tell you the same. It's different when you're in the ring with 18-ounce gloves on, 16-ounce gloves on, and headgear, and then getting in there under the lights with 10-ounce gloves on, and just it doesn't matter about rounds and inactivity on fight night. It's fight fitness and fight night where I believe you do need that, and of course I need every advantage I can get. That I'm as Eddie said before, I am a realist. I know that I need every advantage I can get in this fight, and the advantage that's come from this one is Andre Ward's inactivity, and that's what I can capitalise on Saturday night.
Also, Paul, do you feel like because your 2 fights in a row prior to this, you traveled to Germany to fight Abraham? First fight in particular, very close fight, even though the judges didn't quite see it that way.
Yeah.
But the point is now you went to Germany, you went to the Lions Den over there and fought Abraham on his turf. Now you're coming to the United States to fight Andre in his hometown. But does the fact that you've done that before, gone to somebody else's backyard where it's all their fans, all their promotion, all their people, make you much more mentally strong than the average fighter that may not have ever done that? In other words, when you get to Oakland, it's going to be another walk in the park because you've been in the other guy's place, more than one time.
Yeah, possibly. I'm in Oakland now, and a lot of people have said it's rough, but it's exactly like Liverpool. I love it. It's great, and we've been enjoying ourselves. But I think I fight better away from home, and I think I've proven that in the time. So there's no pressure on me, and that's the thing with this fight, especially. When you're away from home, there's no pressure. There's no pressure to perform. There's no pressure for tickets, fans, everything else, and everything that comes with it being a home fighter. So I do feel I perform better away from home, and a hostile crowd is a hostile crowd. It doesn't really bother me, and I'm sure any fighter who's any decent at any decent level, it wouldn't bother them. Once you're in that ring and the bell goes, it's just the two of you, and the crowd seems to fade out a little bit. But the hostility, I'm sure I'll be okay with that.
Just one other question for you, Paul. The fight's not really a super middleweight fight. They're fighting. You guys are fighting. I'm told that the max weight's 172 pounds. You've been fighting super middleweight and below for your whole career, as has Andre. Do you think that makes any difference? Are you okay with being that heavy, or is that just no biggie for you? You like that better? What is your perspective on this being a little bit over your normal weight?
Yeah, I think any fighter making a weight limit all the time will probably like an extra pound or two here and there. But it was just a case of that's what the fight was at. It was at a catch weight, and that's what it was offered at. There was no real probably room to negotiate. Not that we tried. It is what it is. Yeah, that's what weight the fight's at. So we took it, and that's that. I'm not sure whether it'll benefit Andre or myself or anyone. It's just that's what weight the fight's at. So I'll turn up on the night on the weigh-in, at 172 or less, and we'll see.
All right, very good, Paul. Thank you very much. Good luck on Friday, or good luck on Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you.
Talk. Our next question comes from Flat Top with Fight News. Please go ahead.
Good day, Paul and Eddie. This is Flat Top. Paul, what is your strategy? You know, Ward is used to winning every round of a fight. He's a complete boxer. And with your fight with Abraham, I mean, you were able to get in there and rough it up with him a little bit. Do you plan to make it into more of a brawl, or do you want to keep it a test of skills, a boxing match?
I don't think many in the world at 160, 168, or 175 are going to outbox Andre Ward. They're going to beat him in a boxing match, in a chess match, so to speak. So it is a case of trying to rough him up, but it's doing it, smart and doing it clever as well. There's so many fights where Andre Ward's been involved in a rough fight himself, and he can more than handle himself in that scenario and in that situation. He's tougher than people give him credit for, and he's tougher than he makes out as well, I believe. And he likes to nullify your work, and he likes to make you fight his fight. And everyone that's fought him has done so, and they've all fought his fight. And I'm not saying that I'm an exception to the rule and I'm better than anyone who's fought by any means, but you have to fighting and boxing is tactical. You have to try and make it tactical, and we believe we've got a decent game plan for Saturday night, and I'll be trying everything I can to implement that what I've been working on with Joe Gallagher in the gym.
Tell me a little bit, Paul, about your trainer, how long you've been working with him, what his accomplishments are, and what he's going to prime you for on fight night.
I've been with Joe now for 4 years, and it's been the best 4 years in my career, and I don't see that as a coincidence either. That's I should have went to Joe a lot earlier in my career, but hindsight's a great thing. His work ethic is unbelievable, and the passion and the effort that he puts in with his fighters. He's first one in the gym and he's last one to leave. He has long days, and he doesn't take fighters on unless he thinks they're going to go all the way, and unless he thinks that he's going to really get them a long way. And he's just got attention to detail, which I haven't seen before in a trainer. And I've worked with some good trainers as well. He's passionate about the fighters, and he gives 110% every time in every session. And he's, as I said again, his work ethic is what makes him what he is to me. But tactically and technically, he can read the fight great. And his accomplishments are starting to speak for themselves. He's had me fighting for world titles. He's got Andy Collar fighting for world titles soon. He's got Callum. He's the best prospect in British boxing at the minute, and one of the best in world boxing. He's got Scott Quigg, who's WBA super bantamweight champion, and he'll have many more other world champions to come. I'm almost certain of that. But he's a quality fighter who gives a trainer who gives 100% to his fighters.
It sounds magnificent. Who's working with you on your mental game?
No one. To be honest with you, I had a sports psychologist a few years back, and every now and then when I felt like I needed to up on things, and I do believe that the boxing game is a very mental game, and you need to work on your mental strength as well. Your mind's a muscle, and you need to train that. And I believe I'm mentally strong anyway now, and experience has probably made me mentally stronger. It's just everything's going right for me at the minute in my career, and since I made the move to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, and since I made the move to Joe, my career's turned up. It turns up a notch completely.
Yeah, I remember watching you in the British version of The Contender, and you did well in that too. Was that that was your first time on the big stage? And of course, this Saturday, you'll be on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
How do you see your progress that you've made since The Contender to where you're at now? Do you think that being on The Contender is what jumpstarts your career?
Possibly. It gave me a bigger fan base, and it gave me more of an idea on what to expect in boxing and on the broad scale of things. Boxing's it's a huge game, obviously, and the chance to be over in the States fighting is what every British fighter wants to do. Everyone wants to top a bill in Vegas or top a bill in the States and against a good American fighter. And I'm not just saying it because I'm here. That is what the British fighters aspire to do. You don't want to just spend your life fighting in Britain, although it's a great country, and although I'm very proud to be British and love fighting in Britain. everyone wants to get over to the States and top the bill in Vegas, and that's every kid's probably childhood dream alongside being a world champion. So the fact that I'm over here topping the bill in the States against one of the best fighters of in the top 5 pound for pound, in my opinion, is a brilliant achievement, in my opinion.
Well, thank you, Paul. And Eddie, any comments from you, sir?
From me?
Well, just in regards to as Paul was saying, this is the big time for him. This is the biggest stage he's going to be on in his career so far.
For sure, yeah. I mean, Paul. I wish we would have teamed up with Paul maybe 5 years ago. But since we've signed him, he had a little run out, and then he's fought Arthur Abraham twice, and then Andre Ward. So it's been a real tough run. But one thing about Paul is, in those Abraham fights, he wasn't really phased, and despite how much he thinks he's learned from those fights, he'll realise how much he learned on Saturday night, because you don't really necessarily appreciate how much you've learned until you get in that situation again. And also, what you don't know about Paul Smith is he's a Sky Sports, which is the number one sports broadcaster in the UK. He's a pundit with them nearly every week. So he's used to the attention, he's used to the limelight, he knows how the business works, he knows how the sport works. So he certainly won't be phased on Saturday night. And it's a big occasion, but he's been there. He's seen Froch Groves at Wembley in front of 80,000. He's boxed in front of 12,000 in Germany, all booing him. And but it's not really. Whilst it's an absolute honour to be on the card, and it's not really like one of those experiences for Paul that he's never seen before, because he has been around the sport a long time. So it's just really about executing a game plan on Saturday night. Nothing else will phase him. Not even the skills of Andre Ward, because everybody knows it's not a secret. It's not as if you're going to go in there and say, I can't believe how good this guy is. We know how good this guy is. But, he's got a game plan, and he's smart enough to execute that game plan. It's all up to whether that works on Saturday night.
I agree with you. Those fights with Arthur Abraham were good training, and they
absolutely
prepared him for
great preparation. He's had those fights. He's in what will be probably 9 months. He's boxed Abraham twice and Andre Ward. There's not many super middleweights that have had a run like that. So, and I think the two Abraham fights weren't two fights where he took really, especially the first fight, any punishment. I mean, he had a tough last round in the Abraham 2 fight, but it wasn't one of those fights where, he took a lot of punishment. So I think he's fresh. I think he's probably the best prepared mentally and physically and experience-wise for this fight that he'll ever be at any stage of his career.
Excellent. Well, I wish you luck, gentlemen, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any questions, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Flat Top, your line is open. You may go ahead.
Oh, I got lucky. Paul, the Arthur Abraham, your second fight with Arthur Abraham was only 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Did you suffer? Yeah, and I did watch it, but it was unfortunately on my computer. It didn't come in well. Did you suffer any injuries, or are you fully recovered?
I had an elbow problem, which was probably started before the first Abraham fight and the second Abraham fight, but it gave me no problems in the fight. I can't use it as an excuse because it wasn't. It just needed fixing, and I had a quick keyhole surgery just after it, about 2 weeks after the fight. But as I say, that's been no problem in the camp and in the build-up. I had to get the end of some bones shaved off in my elbow to stop the pain which I was getting when I was jabbing, but that's all gone now and all fine. Apart from that, I didn't get any injuries. No, just the usual wear and tear that you get from a hard fight. I needed a little bit of rest, 2 weeks, 3 weeks rest, and then I was done. Straight back in.
Our next question comes from Mark Wicker. Please go ahead.
Over the years, when you've watched Ward fight, how often have you sort of visualized being in there with him and what you might be able to do that no one else has been able to do against him?
To be honest with you, I've never ever visualised being in the ring with Andre Ward, and that's I'm not putting myself down, saying that I'm not putting Andre Ward up on this pedestal, but it was never a route that I was ever going to take. In my opinion, that route was for the likes of Carl Froch, Golovkin, and the other fighters who were up there improving at world level, at world title, world champions. And at the end of the day, I was offered the fight. They came knocking it, and I was never going to say no to a fight with Andre Ward. I'd love to get in there and try my best against someone like him. And I've watched him over the years. I've watched him, his style. I've watched how he fights, and I'm an admirer of his trainer, Virgil. I think Virgil's a very good trainer. I think he gets a lot of good praise, but I think he gets a bit of unfair criticism as well. I think he's a very good technical trainer, and I like him. And the fact that I've got a chance to go against him and pit my wits and my trainer pit his wits against Virgil and Andre Ward is great for me. I'm delighted. I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to Saturday night. I do think he's not perfect, Andre Ward. He's almost perfect, and he's a very good fighter, but he's been hurt before. He's been down before. He does have chances where you can catch him. He does leave himself open sometimes, and he is there to fight. He's there to be in a fight. He's not with the Abraham fights. It was so hard to break through that defence, and Ward hasn't got defence like that. Although he's a slicker fighter than Abraham, and although he beats Abraham pretty easily, it's a different fight. It's a different style for me, and I haven't trained twice for the one fighter on the bounce for two fights. It's a nice refreshing change to be training for someone else and build another game plan for someone else with a different style, albeit Andre Ward's style.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Eddie Goldman. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Paul, let me ask you about the attention this fight is getting. It's the first fight of the series in the U.S. on BET. They're going to stream this on Tidal. Sky Sports in the U.K. is showing it. It has the return of Andre Ward after this layoff. How much does that inspire you to give, perhaps the best performance of your career?
It inspires me a lot. I know what it is, and as we've all said on this call, I am a realist, and I know what it is, and I know what it's about. So I sort of accept all that because it is Andre Ward's comeback. It's not Paul Smith's comeback after the Abraham fight, and I know the attention is not something that I'm new to be honest with you. The same attention I'm receiving in the UK for this fight is what I got for the previous Abraham fights, but we have had a lot more stateside this time, obviously, whereas last time it was Germany, and a lot of viewers tuned in Germany. There was around 8 million viewers, 9 million viewers watching the fight in Germany. But again, none of that causes pressure, but it does inspire me to throw a spanner in the works. Obviously, I am going to the gym every day, thinking, when the trainer does get hard, I am thinking to myself, what, let's just upset the apple cart, let's throw a spanner in the works, and let's just see what I can try and do in this fight and upset everything, because all the plans in the world are leading towards Andre Ward and his future and him doing whatever he's going to do, whether it be at light heavy or whether it be at super middle, and I can change all that Saturday night.
In the past, Andre Ward has called himself a chameleon. He's been more of a boxer against Carl Froch, more of a brawler against Saki Obika, adapting to the different styles. How are you going to factor that into your game plan, that he can fight in so many different ways?
And yeah, he does, and he does it well. And as I've said this before, and we've been talking about it with Joe. I fight similar ways myself, where I do adapt to whoever I'm fighting, because you can't just go in with the one game plan and the one style and expect it to work against everyone. Sometimes things just don't work. So chameleon, what he said is a good example and a good analogy of it. I always say, I adapt a lot, and I always adapt. Whatever's in front of me, I try and adapt to that, and I try and fit the game plan around that and the style around that. Then, and if Andre Ward coming out the box, then we have to try and combat that. And if he comes out to fight and to brawl, then we have to combat that as well. So there's different ways. I'm still waiting myself to see which Andre Ward comes out on the night, whether he's going to box, whether he's going to fight, whether he's going to try and react before I am. But one thing I have to do is try and make it as hard as I can for him to stick to his usual style.
Okay, thank you. Good luck in the fight.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Jake Donovan with theboxingscene.com.
Hey, Paul. I know you said before you don't want to compare yourself to any of Andre's opponents, not trying to put yourself above any of them. But what can Andre expect from you that he hasn't seen yet in his career? I mean, I know it's impossible. He has a stellar amateur career, stellar pro career, but what can he expect from you without, necessarily giving away your game plan?
What you just said probably is the nail on the head. Though he probably has seen it all. He probably has seen most styles. I don't think he's lost a fight since he's been 13. He's won Olympic gold medal and all the pro fights and the world titles that he's won. So he's probably seen a lot of it coming. I'm gonna try and do something a little bit different than what he's probably been expecting me to do or what he's expecting others to do on Saturday night. And as I said, just give me best. He may not have had a work rate like mine. He may not have had a man with a heart as big as mine. But we won't know until we're in there Saturday night. And it is a lot of unknowns as well for me. Getting in there because we don't know which Andre Ward to expect, what's going to come up, whether he's going to come out and fight, whether he's going to come out and box, and a lot of it will literally depend on when the first bell goes.
All right. As far as the 172 catch weight, what advantages does it pose for you? Because I know you've gone back and forth between weight. You fight a little heavy when you're not fighting for a title, and then you have to come down when you are fighting for it. But what advantage does it pose for you, fighting a little bit heavier than the super middleweight limit?
It's just probably a bit of breakfast in the morning, or a minus a workout in the morning of the fight, than any messing around with weight and with skipping off and everything else. It just makes it a little bit easier than hitting 168, obviously.
Just giving you DJ Roots, anything spectacular we could expect from the ring entrance?
No, just the usual. What you get with me is just plain Jane. I've always had the same colour shorts, same style shorts, same boots, same everything. It's always just the same music as well in the ring walk. Okay,
well, I know you did a remix. I'm trying to remember the name of the song. I think it was called Falling Stars or Waiting for a Star to Fall, something like that. So you don't think that's appropriate for Saturday night?
It is, isn't it? Think about it. The name is appropriate, and let's hope it's true on Saturday night.
All right, cool. Best of luck, Paul.
Thank you.
You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any further questions, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Are there any other questions for Paul Smith at this time?
Okay, Paul, I guess that's it.
We do have one final question, and it comes from Javier with the newspaper Claridad. Please go ahead.
Hi, Paul. Paul, he has not been that active over the last couple of years. How can that benefit you? And can you take advantage of the fact that he hasn't fought in a long time?
Yeah, we said this earlier on an earlier question. Inactivity isn't good for any fighter, I don't believe. And even if he was good as Andre Ward, it's still not fight round. It's still not fight fitness, and it's not the same feeling being it with a 10-ounce glove as it is with 16, 18-ounce sparring gloves with headgear on. And you need to stay active in the ring fighting to be just to maintain your level as a fighter, in my opinion. So, of course, I'm hoping to capitalise on that Saturday night, and every advantage in my favour is more than welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it for you, Paul and Eddie. If you have anything you guys want to say in closing, the floor is yours.
No, just looking forward to Saturday. Like I said, it's a funny old game, it's a funny old sport, but Paul Smith is a live dog in this fight. And to respond to Javier's question, without doubt, the inactivity can only be a negative. It can't. One thing we know is it can't be a positive. It's very unlikely that Andre Ward will be as good on Saturday night as he was in his last competitive fight, or particularly in the Super 6 final against Carl Froch. So a wonderful fighter, great talent, but this is the time. And don't be surprised to see another UK victory. We're hot to trot in America right now. We don't very often come to America and lose. So bear that in mind, David. But we'll still have a
lose the big ones, though. Remember the War of Independence. You'll lose the big ones.
It's a long time since then. I look forward to it, mate.
All right. See you guys later this week. Thanks again.
Thanks, David.
All right, now turning things over to the Andre Ward portion of our call. He captured a gold medal at the 2004 Athens Olympic Games and is the last American boxer to have brought home a gold medal. His list of vanquished foes reads like a who's who of the super middleweight division, including Carl Froch, Mikkel Kessler, Arthur Abraham, and Saki Obika, all of whom he defeated en route to winning the Super Six. He also dominated and knocked out former light heavyweight world champion Chad Dawson in their 2012 showdown. He is the pride and hope of Oakland, California, a family man, and in an age when athletes are not always the best role models, he's someone that you want your children to emulate. He embarks on the next chapter of his career this Saturday night as he makes his highly anticipated return to the ring against Paul Smith. It's my pleasure to introduce the reigning WBA super middleweight world champion with a record of 27-0 with 14 KOs from Oakland, California, and an athlete that all of us at Rock Nation Sports are proud to represent, Mr. Andre Ward. Andre?
Thank you, David. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be on the call.
All right. Do you want to say a few words before we turn it over to questions?
Just excited to be back on a conference call for a week of a fight. It's been a while. It's starting to feel like, the fight is around the corner. Obviously, it is around the corner, but I'm starting to feel those emotions and those, what it actually feels like. Because again, it's been 18, maybe 19 months. So just happy to be back and excited to take any questions you guys have.
All right, thanks, Andre. Operator, we can open it up for questions.
Our first question is from Dan Raphael with ESPN. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hello, Andre.
Hey, good. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. Welcome back. I know it's been a while since you fought. I'm wondering during the course of time when you were out of the ring, you talked a little bit about it when you made your agreement with Rock Nation and signing. You did some interviews, and we talked a little bit about it. But how much did you miss boxing and the anticipation of whether it was going to the training camp or the actual fight night or the attention that was on you, that sort of thing? How much over the last 19 months did you miss that, and how much are you looking forward to basically getting back in the groove, and restarting your career, which was obviously going very, very well?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously it was devastating, and in my profession and in my job, I've learned to be, I've learned to poker face, pain and discomfort and different things like that. So, I didn't really let on to a lot or talk about a lot because it just wasn't, I just didn't feel like it was the appropriate time. We had the legal battle going on, and just every word is being taken literally, and I just had to be very careful about what I said publicly. But it was very devastating to the point where, like I said before, and this is just not a line, for you guys, but really wanted to walk away. Didn't want to walk away, but was on the verge of walking away because, I didn't see at certain points any light at the end of any tunnel. And, I know that behind the scenes, regardless of what was written, I did all that I could do to try to rectify the situation after it had, was underway, to try to settle something that was reasonable that everybody could live with. And it just, it was just one thing after the next. And it was many nights I sat there and I literally wrote up, I think 2 retirement speeches because, I've given my whole life. I've given a whole childhood to the sport. And I didn't want it to end on anyone else's terms but myself, but mine. So if that's what it was going to take, then that's what it was going to take. And fortunately, every time I got to that point, someone, my wife, my pastor, Verge, someone would tell me it's not time. I understand your frustration, but, just wait this out. It's going to end at some point, and it finally did. And as far as just, missing the sport, it was a positive that I was able to, broadcast and be around the fans. And when something like that happens, your human nature is to stay away from people and not be seen and not want to be around it. But A, I had to be there because I have a job to do and an obligation to HBO. But then B, I wanted my fans to feel me and to touch me and to see me and to talk to me. And in my professionally, one of the most uncomfortable situations I've ever been in, because that's what it's really all about. We show people on Instagram, Twitter, how great it is. We don't talk about the tough times, and I wanted them to reach out and touch me during those tough times. And now that I'm back, I really feel like that made me stronger. I have a greater appreciation for the sport. Didn't think I could have a greater appreciation, but I do. And I prepared for this fight, and I'm excited.
So, Andre, do you have any regrets about going into this situation? Because, it was a choice to go into a legal fight. Some people may have done it differently. Perhaps they may have just played out the contract and then gone their separate ways. Other people did what you would have done, which is to fight and try to extricate yourself from that situation. But with the long layoff, do you have any regrets? And how do you think that 19-month layoff physically, when you're in the ring, will affect you on Saturday night?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, but, at the same time, you have to be willing, and I don't want to get too much into it, the legal stuff.
No, I'm not asking about the legal stuff, just from your mentality of, you could have just done the contract and been done with it and then gone on your merry way.
I mean, I could have accepted a lot of things along the course of my career, and it doesn't mean that I mean, you can't always look for the road, that's the easiest to travel. I mean, it's just not a reality. Any professional sport, any time you're willing to trailblaze a new path or step out on faith and take a leap, there's going to be opposition. I don't care what it is, and I don't base my decision solely on how easy it's going to be. If that was the case, and I wouldn't be in the sport that I'm in now, because this is very grueling physically, mentally, and the whole nine. So, no, we made an educated decision. I sought counsel before I made that decision from multiple people. I prayed about it. I thought about it, because ultimately, the buck stopped with me. I had the final say, and I didn't know exactly what was going to be on the other side, but I believed in what I was fighting for, again, irregardless of what was written, because everyone didn't have the full narrative or the full story. I would not have changed anything. It's something I had to go through. I got through it. It strengthened my faith, my relationship with God. It brought me and my wife closer, and it shows you, a lot of things. It brings the sport of boxing into reality, because when you're no longer a commodity for individuals, sometimes the phone stops ringing. And certain people continued to call, and many people rallied around me personally, and then there was some that was distant because there was no money to be made. There was no fight on the horizon. And all those things are good. Those are life experiences. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. Did I hate every moment of it? Yes. But did it forge me? Did it teach me? Absolutely. So, no, I wouldn't have changed anything. And we'll see Saturday night about the layoff. I mean, what compounded this last layoff was the first layoff.
Right.
That's what made this layoff even worse, because I came off of, 11 months or somewhere around there with a shoulder injury, and I thought I was on my merry way after the Rodriguez fight, and then, boom, I'm hit with another layoff. So all I could do is what I could do, which was, dedicate myself, focus. I mean, if you look at some of the greats, like Floyd Mayweather, Ali took 3 years off. I mean, these guys, they come back and they may not be at their best. I mean, but Floyd took 2 years off and took a guy in Juan Manuel Marquez, who, was a little bit smaller than Floyd, but if Floyd wasn't on point, he would have had some problems with Marquez. So it's not out of the question. I love that, Eddie Hearn and his whole team, they're banking on that, but if that's their game plan, they got the wrong game plan come June 20th.
Andre, one other question for you then. The fight contract at 172 pounds, you've never been a guy that's ever really, at least outwardly, shown any issues making 168 where you're the champion. But are you doing this at 172 because this is the first step toward you making that move that we've talked about for years, eventually to becoming a light heavyweight?
I just think collectively, everybody decided that this was the best move to make. Why go to 68 right now? Just see where you feel, and it's for two reasons. A, yes, I can make 68. I haven't had any issues making 68, and I think, to my credit, until I show that I have some issues, I've never missed weight, never come close to missing weight. Until I show that I have some issues, I think it's safe to say that I can make 68 with no problem. But then it's also just a gauge and a barometer to see how I feel. Is it time to move up, or do we go back down to 68? So yeah, that's your question is accurate. Plus, it's just to ultimately see how I feel overall.
All right, very good. Andre, thank you very much, and welcome back, and good luck Saturday.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Mark Wicker with the Daily News. Please go ahead.
Hi, Andre. Going back to what you said earlier about the layoff, how much has that built the urgency to, in your career, to get the big fights and to get the forum that your ability has proven that you deserve? And And also, when you talk about fighting at light heavyweight, you look at Kovalev and Stevenson and those guys, and then at 168, maybe eventually a guy like Golovkin could come up. How much a motivating thing are those fights?
I mean, they're very motivating. That's what we're in the sport for. I mean, there's definitely a place for tune-up fights to get in the groove and get your body back going. I mean, there's places for that, but ultimately, and I think I've shown this throughout my career, ultimately you want the biggest prize, and that's, only fighting, the best in the division. And I don't think it's realistic to do that fight in and fight out. I don't think that's smart either, but, at some point in time you have to bump heads with those guys. And like I said, throughout my whole career, I've done that. And me fighting those 8-level, dangerous, other champions, former champions, top contenders, though, they came back to back for me because of the Super Six, and then obviously the Chad Dawson fight, and even Edwin Rodriguez. I mean, he's undefeated fighter when I fought him, number one contender, and he was not someone that you could come in ill prepared against. So I just want to see where my body, after this fight, continue to get my body fat measured, continue to see where my body is as a whole and how I feel. And then when we go up to 75, we'll make that decision. If we stay at 68, it's always about ultimately, getting the best fights. But the reality is I can't make these guys fight me. And all I can do is be in a position to be ready. And, the only thing I believe stopping me from a pay-per-view is just having the right dancing partner. And, Floyd was fortunate to have, his Arturo Gatti and then his Oscar De La Hoya and then his Ricky Hatton. I mean, he was fortunate. And right now I don't have, a slew of opponents that can, make for a pay-per-view fight. But I just got to continue to take it a fight at a time. And I think, at the right time, those things will happen.
When you look at, and a lot of fight fans always are looking at the next great fight and trying to project things. And even as a analyst at ringside, I'm sure you go through the same things. When people look at Ward possibly versus Golovkin or Ward versus Kovalev, and it's that great matchup of the Matador and the Bull. I mean, how is that kind of the way you look at those fights too? That the styles might make those classic fights if they ever happen.
Well, I don't want to talk too much about these guys because I mean, all I can think about is Paul Smith, and that's no cliche. I mean, right. I'm glad he started talking this week because I was getting a little worried. I hadn't heard anything coming out of the UK, so I'm happy he did that. It's not that I needed any more motivation, but that was just a little bit extra. I guess you can call it motivation, but if just briefly, if I fought either one of those guys, I think there's a slight misconception that that I'm the matador. I think if you watch my fights, that I like to be the bull at times too. So I think either one of those fights are great matchups. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Flat Top with Fight News. Please go ahead.
Good day, Paul. You mentioned social media with allowing you to reach out to your fans and for the fans to reach out to you. And in the last 18 months during your absence, there's been, of course, a lot of talk about you on social media, but you didn't mention the positive aspects of it. Do you see social media playing a big role with fighters such as yourself in not only hyping you or popularizing you, but in also just giving you a more insight to the fans? And plus, talk a little bit about your HBO broadcast. Is that something that you want to look at as a career afterwards? Because you did a great job on that too. I really enjoyed you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. The social media aspect, yeah, you have to stay on top of social media. Social media will stay on top of you. I mean, you have to evolve with the times, and you have to, kind of keep up with the pace, or, you kind of get left behind. So, of course, the different outlets that we have to connect with fans and supporters alike, it's essential that, you stay up to speed, like I said, and you stay current because, in a lot of cases, many people, at least certain demographics are not, obviously reading newspapers, but a lot of them aren't even going online to read the news. You know, they're on social media. Some people get their news from, you know, Twitter alone or Instagram alone or Facebook alone. So you have to do those things. Those things definitely allow me to continue to stay in contact with my fans, and not from a distance, but up close. You know, answer personal questions and different things like that. And as far as the broadcasting, I mean, I really, you know, as a young kid, you know, Verge, who I believe is somewhat prophetic, you know, he wrote in a notebook, he still has it, where, you know, he's just listed the things that he envisioned me doing and becoming. And, you know, obviously there were some smaller goals like national championship. It's a bigger goal, you know, winning the 2004 Olympic gold medal and becoming a broadcaster, because, you know, my favorite fighter of all time and the first fighter that ever caught my eye and that I really, you know, watched was Roy Jones. And obviously he was a fighter and he was a broadcaster, and I wanted to be just like Roy. So, I love the broadcasting. It's a passion of mine. I don't take it for granted. I don't look at it like, yeah, you know, I'm in this position, so yeah, they need to give me this. I mean, I'm grateful for HBO to give me this job because it's at the highest level, and I'm thankful for guys like Max Kellerman, Larry Merchant, not Larry Merchant, but Jim Lampley, because Larry left before I came, and just all the individuals who have mentored me, continue to mentor me, and continue to help me in this. I truly want to get better at it.
And you're out there, too, on Tidal with that. I haven't seen part 2, but part 1 of the Resurrection. You know, that's it seems like you're spreading yourself out, and lately you've been getting back into sort of the Hollywood part of being a boxer, you know, throwing the ball out at the game, being on The View. I messaged you on The View, too. But it seems like you're getting back into the strut of, you know, being that pound-for-pound fighter, one of the superstars of boxing. When you look at boxing today and you look at the people who are the superstars, you know, the Mayweathers, gosh, you know, where does it go from there? But do you see the sport as being half full or half empty? Do you see the sport now with a lot more boxing on television? Do you see that as a big positive? Do you see the sport kind of bringing itself back like a resurrection?
Well, yeah, and just to back up just really quick, I want to give Al Bernstein a shout-out, too, because he was one of my first mentors, and he still mentors me, and I really appreciate that from Al. I mean, he's a veteran in the sport, and when it comes to the broadcasting, he gives me critique, and he's done a great deal to help me in my broadcasting career. But, yeah, I mean, I've always looked at the sport like it's half full. I mean, I never buy into, you know, the headlines that say boxing is dead. I mean, you know, I feel like, you know, boxing has been around for many, many years, obviously long before, you know, I was born, and it's going to be around, you know, long after I leave. I just think boxing is one of those fixtures, you know, all around the world that will never go anywhere. I mean, do we have our issues internally? Yes. Do we get a lot of criticism, and some of it is warranted, some of it isn't? But I like the steps that are being taken right now to, you know, just as a whole, everybody involved, every network, every promoter, every manager, to try to forward the sport, and not just forward the sport as a whole, but to make sure that the fighters, the individuals who are getting in there and taking the physical risk, you know, they're getting compensated like they should, and they're getting the exposure like they should, because we know that the more exposure you get, you know, obviously, you know, the bigger you become, the bigger your brand becomes in the sport. So I like where the sport is, and I just think we just need to keep pushing, keep moving forward.
Yeah, you and Miguel Cotto are the flagship fighters for Rock Nation. David, are you still there?
I'm here.
Let me ask you a question, too. Miguel Cotto coming off of his victory. You know, Andrew Ward posed for another stellar showing. What are your plans for Ward if he is successful on Saturday? And is there a possibility of seeing a mega supercard with both these guys on it?
Well, with respect to plans for Andre, you know, we've kicked around some ideas as a team, you know, here at Rock Nation and with his management team, James Prince and Andre himself. A lot of what we do will be dictated by how Andre feels coming out of the fight on Saturday night. How he feels about his weight, how he feels about the performance that he gave, obviously how he looks. So we have a few different paths that we've been talking about. Saturday night will go a long way towards helping us to dictate what path we go, but the goal is for Andre to fight in big fights and marquee fights, and that's the direction that we're headed. It's just a question of what the road is based on how things go on Saturday night. With respect to Andre and Miguel fighting on the same show.
I know that's a big dream.
Yeah, I think economically that might be a little difficult.
Just wishful thinking.
I mean, look, crazier things have happened. I'll never say never, but just economically, that'd be something that would be pretty difficult to pull off.
And not to take away from Andre at all, but congratulations with Cotto there.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, David. Andre, I'll see
you
you guys Saturday night.
Thank you.
Javier with Newspaper Claridad, please go ahead.
Hi, Andre. The poll people seem to think that you won't be as sharp because of the long layoff. What's your answer to that? And I know you don't want to disrespect Paul, but you talk a little bit about wanting to do pay-per-view fights. How long do you see the either Golovkin or Kovalev, I believe, are the two guys that will do that it will be a pay-per-view fight? How do you see that becoming a reality in 2015?
I answer the second question first. Yeah, I totally think it's a reality in 2015. Again, it's just about finding the right dancing partner at the right time. That's the key. I mean, that's the key for anybody. Very rarely do you see somebody just come on the scene and then they can just jump into a pay-per-view. Especially when it's their first one. So I'm just in a unique spot where we have to find the right opponents, and we have to find opponents that are willing to step up and that can also carry their end of a pay-per-view. But again, those are the types of things where I just try to let those things just happen. Of course, as a team we talk about these things and we strategize, but to a degree you got to just let life happen and let these things just come into play. And it's okay. It's okay that people, feel like I'm going to be rusty. I mean, people have to talk about something, right? I mean, but it's really interesting to me that Paul Smith is really, kind of hanging his hat on that. It's really surprising. I thought he was a little bit smarter than that when I met him in New York a few months ago. But apparently that's what they're banking on, and I think he's in for a rude awakening come Saturday night because I'm going to be very sharp. I'm going to be hitting harder than I think he realizes. I'm going to be, stronger than I think he realizes. And I don't know who he got his advice from. I don't know if he talked to Prats or who he talked to, but I hope Prats told him the truth.
One last thing, Andrea. This will be the first card on Black Entertainment Television who is doing boxing for the first time. I know you want to go to HBO, but how much do you see that being on the BET network will help you get bigger in order for you to become a pay-per-view star when you go back to HBO?
Well, I think if you look at, obviously, my team will sit and talk to HBO after this fight, and they will figure out, what the next step is. I don't think this is a downgrade. I don't think this is anything bad. I think this is just, for this particular fight, just moving in a different direction, which is a good direction. You got to realize that it's not over 92 million homes that BET is available to, and those are it's probably a good number of those people probably aren't die-hard boxing fans, and that's ultimately what it's about because typically the diehards are going to follow you wherever you go. So I'm not worried about that. I just have to take advantage of the situation I've been given, and you have to look at one thing like even The View. The View came about, appearing on The View came about because of BET, because of announcing my fight on a BET platform and bumping into Whoopi Goldberg, and Whoopi Goldberg taking a liking to me and Rock Nation, following up, week in and week out to make it happen. And so those things happen when you venture out and you do new and different things. So I'm excited about it. I'm thankful for BET for what they're doing. I'm thankful to Rock Nation because they work around the clock. I don't think anybody at Rock Nation gets a full 8 hours of sleep a night. I doubt it, because they're constantly working, they're constantly pushing, they're constantly working the phones and just trying to make things happen, and they're making things happen. And my job is to prepare like I have. It's a beautiful thing when you come to fight week and you know that you haven't cut any corners. I didn't cut corners on any run. I didn't cut corners on any sparring session. Every round for me counted. Every day counted. And, I'm more than prepared for anything Paul Smith brings to the table. And I just think this fight is not going to go the way he anticipates it, and I say that with all due respect. He's going to bring it. He only knows one way, but I just think he's going to be hit early. He's going to be hit often, and he's going to realize very quick, like, man, this isn't the guy that we scouted on paper. It's a little bit different.
Okay. Thank you, Ender.
And our next question comes from Eddie Goldman with No Holds Barred. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hi, Andre. It's good to see you getting back in the ring.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about this stage of your career, because from the amateurs to the Olympics to your pro career, there were zigs and zags, but there's never been this kind of layoff, this kind of separation between fights. So it really represents to me a new chapter, the beginning of a new chapter in your career. Tell us about what you envision for this fight and the next several years in your career, and if you think and what you plan to do, say, to get that Mayweather-type status.
Well, I mean, we throw a lot of things around it. I mean, just the boxing community as a whole. We throw, pay-per-view star out there like it's just like you can, walk around the corner and become that. We throw the Mayweather status around. We throw the Manny Pacquiao status around, and we just have to stop for a second and realize what went into that, what these guys had to do. And I'm talking a handful of guys that you can count on one hand in the last 10, 12 years that were able to pull something like that off. If you look at Floyd Mayweather, look how long he was champion and how long he reigned as champion before he got Arturo Gatti, his first pay-per-view fight. And then things begin to snowball and pick up. And then he got his Oscar De La Hoya, and then he got his Ricky Hatton. And then, Floyd worked extremely hard to, go from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather. Like, he did his part. And there was a lot of things that worked out right for Floyd. Obviously, a lot of physical hard work, he did his part, and then he had the proper fight, and then things took off. But and the same thing with Manny. Manny brought his country here. Manny, brought the Philippines here, and he had a massive following, and he did his part. If you look at Canelo brings his country here, Mexico. If you look at, Oscar De La Hoya was Mexican American, and what Oscar had was very rare. You look at Tito Trinidad. Tito Trinidad brought his country here. For an American, it takes time, and it's not an easy feat to become a quote-unquote pay-per-view star. And in my opinion, a pay-per-view star is not just someone who participates in one or two pay-per-views. The pay-per-view star is someone who can command the pay-per-view on an A side, time in and time out, regardless of who they fight. And I've been a professional over 10 years now, and I've heard one guy after the next say, I'm next in line. I've heard one promoter after the next tell their guy is the guy. But there is a handful of guys, and there's only one American probably in the last 10 years. I mean, you have to throw Oscar in there, too. I don't remember how long Oscar's been retired, but since I've been a professional, probably Oscar and Floyd are the only two guys that you can say that are from America where you can say they're bona fide pay-per-view stars out of all the fighters. So this isn't just something we can, as a team, Rock Nation and my man, we can just concoct and just make it happen. And because it hasn't happened at this stage in my career, doesn't mean that something is terribly wrong. I mean, you have to look at all of the fighters that are active and that are fighting right now, and there's yet to be a bona fide pay-per-view star from America. You have a handful, like I said, Canelo. You have Manny Pacquiao. You've had Tito Trinidad. You have a handful of guys, and I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out. So this is a long way to say that we just have to keep fighting, and we just have to keep doing what we do. And hopefully the right opponents will come at the right time, and then I'll become as big as I'm supposed to become. But in the interim, I don't want to squander what I do have. I have influence now. I have reach now. I have a fan base now that I have to be cognizant about and give them my all. So I don't want to make it seem like there's this feat up here or everything else just doesn't make sense. Like everything else just is not worth anything. It's just not like that. So it takes time. It takes effort. It takes a lot of things falling into place. And then if it happens, then I'll be as happy as anybody. But I got to stay focused and keep doing what I'm doing fight by fight.
You obviously have a different personality and a different kind of person than Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao, for that matter, also. Do you think that the Super 6 tournament that you had a couple of years ago, how do you look at the legacy of that? Because when you went into that, some of us thought you had a real good chance of winning, but it wasn't real obvious at the point, and you ended up cleaning everybody out. Tell us about the legacy of that tournament and how that can help you propel yourself in the next stage of this career.
Well, I think the Super 6, as well as the Chad Dawson victory, has given me the status that I have in the sport. I mean, that, nobody remembers anything, before that. So, it's key moments like that in your career that do make you. Because obviously it was unprecedented. It was something that had never been done. I mean, obviously there was tournaments before. I think Don King put on a 4-man tournament, but nothing with that amount of fighters, different parts of the world, and as long as that was. And then obviously the reality, television aspect of it, where you get to come into our homes and get into our lives and see who we are as people. That had never quite been done like that. And we had some hiccups, but we got through it. We ended up having the finale, and the rest is history. And then I went from there to fighting the lineal light heavyweight champion off of his career best performance against Bernard Hopkins. And obviously we got our hand raised in that. So the Super 6, along with the Chad Dawson fight, I think is the core of what made me who I am today. And
who do you see perhaps in the future? I know you don't want to look past Paul Smith. No fighter does that. But you said you need dance partners for the pay-per-view. Who are some of the people that might be on your radar, and not just from the United States, from the UK or around the world?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, from my experience, a lot of times genuine pay-per-views, like fights that should really be on pay-per-view, the fans demand them. They're fights that, you didn't just concoct and pick and say, hey, that's the perfect guy. It's typically a fight or an opponent or a matchup that fans are clamoring about and fans are demanding, and again, we just have to let that take its course, and we have to let it happen. I'm not going to make, any bold claims about anything because, and this is not my goal, obviously, but at the end of the day, if I never participated in a pay-per-view, I've had a phenomenal career. I make a great living. I don't talk about the money I make. I mean, I've got I've got a great team in terms of my endorsements. And the things that I've been able to do and accomplish just in my lifetime, being a professional fighter and world champion, I just never imagined. So I just got to let life take its course and let my team do what they do. But again, all that matters right now for me, and that's a great question that you just asked, is just Paul Smith, because, if there's no Paul Smith victory, then all of these things are on the back burner, and I can't allow that to happen. So, look for a spectacular performance Saturday night against a tough game opponent. Don't miss it.
And our final question comes from Mark Wicker with the Daily News. Please go ahead.
Andre, what do you think you learned from being a ringside analyst that, you were a student of the game anyway, but what do you think you picked up that might help you be even more refined in the ring?
I think just the mental reps, because I get, 2 or 3 days before I have to be at a particular venue to call a fight, we have a stack of literature and background information about the fighters. It could be, 2 fights on the card that we're calling, sometimes 3 fights, sometimes a triple hitter. And mentally I have to dig in there and kind of go back and follow a guy's career up until the point where he is, on that particular day. And that just keeps me fresh and keeps me sharp from a mental standpoint. But then also ringside, and I'm a genuine boxing fan. Some fighters, like I grew up me and my brother, we started together, and I would probably say my brother Jonathan had more talent than I had. He probably could have been better than me, but he didn't love it. He just liked it. I love this sport. So when he was downstairs at 11 years old watching cartoons, I'm watching Gillette Tuesday Night Fight. Just I was just enamored with the sport. And when I sit ringside and I call the fights, I mean, you're up close. You see the kind of punches that are being thrown. You can read the fighters' minds. You can, it's just a lot of different little nuances that I'm picking up on. And I've learned that along with my ringside work, my analyst work, as well as just how I am as a person. When I'm away from the gym, I'm constantly taking mental reps about how I can get better. About opponents, about, man, I was in the gym today, I got hit with this shot, man, I gotta keep this hand up and then next time block and fire. Like those things are always on. I'm consumed with the sport because I'm so competitive and I love it so much. And that transfers in the gym. Sometimes I'll go to the gym after maybe being off a couple of weeks and say, man, I still feel sharp, I still feel good because my mind was always on the sport. It wasn't on, partying and going here and doing this and, oh, man, I got to get to the gym after 2 months and then start from scratch. I've always been engaged. So the analyst work, kind of just how I was raised, as a young fighter, and knowing that I have to stay connected to the sport, all of those things, help when you have a layoff like I've had. And I think that people are going to be really surprised on Saturday. I'm not going to say that there's not going to be any ring rust. I mean, I am human, but I don't think it's going to be the kind of ring rust that Paul Smith and his team is banking on.
One last thing. How excited are you about the Warriors and that whole thing?
I'm ecstatic. It's storybook. It really is. Mark Jackson, the previous coach, he did a great job of giving you guys a foundation and getting them to a certain point. And then Steve Kerr came, and he's just doing unbelievable things. I mean, as a rookie coach, nobody or not many people expected the regular season that they had. And then, some said, okay, well, let's see what they do in the playoffs. It's a different level, which it is. And they've had very few hiccups, and they've responded like champions. And I just think it's our year, and you have to take your hat off to LeBron James, who's single-handedly carried this franchise to this point, and he's still fighting. It's not over yet. He's still kicking, and he knows what it would mean to Cleveland to bring a championship back there. But it means just as much to us here in the Bay Area after a 40 long year drought to hoist that trophy and to bring a championship here. Plus, when I went on The View, and I'm not superstitious, but I got a chance to hold the trophy, and, I just hope, that helps a little bit. I hope that's kind of a prelude to what's getting ready to happen, that one Bay Area kid got a chance to hoist that trophy up, and now I think in a few days, I think that the Golden State Warriors will do the same.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any final questions at this time, please press star 1 on your telephone. Again, if there are any final questions, please press star 1. And we do have a question from Kirk Jackson with the Boxing Insider. Please go ahead.
Hello, Andre. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. As mentioned before, this fight's going to be in Oakland. It's your hometown, and obviously there's a big buzz going with the Warriors playing the way they are. This fight's also going to be streamed on Tidal. It's going to be the first fight on BET Broadcasting. You along with Miguel Cotto are the main guys representing Rock Nation, and he recently knocked out Daniel Gill. Do you feel like there's any added pressure for you to perform in spectacular form this upcoming Saturday?
Not really. Miguel put on a great performance in his fight. I thought he would put on that kind of performance. He's a veteran. I've looked up to Miguel for years and watched him, when he started at 140, and to see him with the longevity that he's had, still at the highest level is amazing. I tip my hat to him. Now, there's no direct competition. I mean, as a competitor, I want to put on a great show for Rock Nation, for BET, for, my manager, my lawyers, my team, just for my fans. I want to put on a great show from that aspect. But, this is boxing. A great show may be, dazzling the fans for 12 rounds. It may be a first-round knockout. It may be a middle-round stoppage. It just depends, but the goal is to obviously win. And the second goal is to win and look good doing it. So, I can't put that kind of pressure on myself to go out there and get out of character to try to, compete with Miguel Cotto. That wouldn't be the right thing to do.
Is there anything about Paul Smith's style that concerns you?
I don't know if concern is the right word. I mean, there's respect there. I mean, I think that what I've learned to do over the years is even give guys in my mind more respect and more kudos than maybe they're entitled to. Just to make sure that I don't have a mental letdown in my preparation. And I expect a fighter who is obviously banking on some kind of ring rust. He stated throughout the media that, he just fought, 10 weeks ago and he's still in shape and, I'm going to chin. Just all these things he's starting to come out and say, well, I take him at his word. And, one thing he's going to realize, and his promoter, should know this too because we've been on the opposite side of the ring before, is that, I don't take anybody lightly. I don't think tune-up has been used in this training camp the whole time we've been preparing. I just won't allow it because there's really no such thing. If Paul Smith beats me June 20th, he earned it, he deserves it, and I'll tip my hat to him. But it's not going to be easy.
All right. Well, much luck to you Saturday from one Bay Area native to another.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Andre, a few closing thoughts before we end the call.
I'm just happy and excited again for this event. We're days away. I'm so thankful to Rock Nation Sports for just the job that they do all the time. I mean, they're always on point. They're always working. Just everybody on the Rock Nation team. I don't want to start naming people because I'll leave somebody out. My lawyer, Josh Steuben, James Prince. I mean, they work tirelessly, and the things that happen and things that people see, people don't always realize that it takes a lot of work to get those things done, including this event. We're going up against an NBA final, and we're not directly competing with the Warriors, but indirectly, we're kind of battling with that, and my team is persevering through that. And, the best way I can thank them is to perform Saturday night and go out there and give it my best and to put on the best show that I possibly can.
Well said. Well, thank you to Andre, to Paul, Eddie Hearn, the media that dialed in today. Again, Saturday night, June 20th, Oracle Arena in Oakland, California. Andre Ward versus Paul Smith, live on BET and streamed live globally on Tidal, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Tickets are still available, starting at just $30. Everybody get out there, head to your Ticketmaster locations, Ticketmaster.com, or call 800-745-3000. Looking forward to a really, really exciting week in Oakland, something that the city hasn't seen in quite a few years. So we'll see you all in Oakland, and thanks again.